Okay, so this is my level overview for Project Resolution. Gameplay for the level progresses from here and progresses through the level from the start area into through here, um, unlocks abilities here, and then comes back through for a final test and then the final boss. Um, In the first section, you're tested on platforming and avoiding pitfalls, as well as introduced to moving platforms. In the second area, you're introduced into the staff attack mechanic. This will be for your day character, and this will be the knife throwing mechanic for your night character. And these alternate based on whether or how which player you entered the last portal with. So strategy will be involved. During the first section, portals are fairly common, but then near the end, there's only the 3 that you can go to, though you get introduced to a mechanic over here that allows you to switch at will at the cost of magic points. And we'll see how that mechanic ends up being implemented. These are the introductory enemy encounters. So enemies work that the small enemies have a rush down melee type behavior, and they are small and relatively weak. There is a mechanic that you have day characters weak to night characters, and night characters are weak to day characters. And this will go both for your attacks versus enemies and enemies' attacks on you. And then enemy encounter, so this first place is just introduction into the portals, the fact that you can push blocks to solve puzzles and to unlock the door for the building, and then an enemy encounter. This is an introduction for blocks, and that they can unlock moving platforms to solve puzzles. And then we have here is another introduction puzzle into where into using blocks to solve puzzles, and then there's going to be a fight that ensues after you solve the puzzle to unlock the door. This will be a culmination of what you've learned for, so this is all enemy small encounters that reinforce your abilities with the staff and the knife, and the knife is a throwing knife. And then the enemy for the mini-boss will be a culmination, a test for those core gameplay mechanics. You'll be rewarded with the ability to change day or night at will and progress into this area, and you'll be tested on harder enemies and a little bit more robust puzzle solving mechanic with your with blocks and your new ability to change the time of day at will. Here we have the same test, but it changes the first time you go through. You're tested on the blocks and the portals. When you reach this area, you unlock fire and ice spells, and from the fire and ice spells, you can go in and look and then the puzzle opens up for fire and ice triggers, and so you'll need to be able to unlock a puzzle with a fire spell trigger to get through this pass here. And then this area is an introduction to both this area kind of served to introduce the fire and ice spells, and this will be a test of both the fire and ice and the staff and throwing knife mechanics. There will be open-ended puzzle solving for the enemy encounters, but the puzzles will involve an introduction to the fire and ice mechanics. And then the final boss will be a culmination of what you've learned for your fire and ice spells, your melee and your knife throwing skills, and it will be a more intensive encounter. There is also a world hazard that I call just planet bleed, so just obstacles, maybe growth that prohibits player movement in certain areas until certain things are done. I'm not quite sure, but I was thinking that it would be a fitting kind of environmental hazard to involve in addition to the pitfalls, just because of the flexibility and the way that it's used and the potential to tie it into what I'm hoping to do with the story. That, I think, should cover most of this. I hope that's clear, and thank you so much for listening, Marty. So.